I'm Darla Wren, 32, and literally last Christmas, my rep as the family fixer? Yeah, it totally backfired. The mortgage I co-signed for my parents, the one I'd been bleeding money into for years to keep them afloat, it blew up into a full-on family meltdown at our so-called cozy holiday dinner. My dad Vernon straight up demanded I cover their latest missed payment, and when I pushed back, the room went dead silent. "You're killing us, Darla," he barked, with Mom, Glenda, and my sister Marla staring like I'd torched the Christmas tree. But here's the tea. Their guilt trips didn't break me, they lit a spark. I'm not just pushing back. I'm about to flip the script and change everything. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, hit subscribe, and stay with me for the most satisfying comeback you'll ever hear. Looking back, it's almost wild what I did once I found their dirty secret. It started 3 days before Christmas. I was at my apartment wrapping client proposals when my phone buzzed with a notification from the bank. Another missed mortgage payment, $2,300 overdue. My stomach knotted. I'd co-signed that loan 6 years ago, back when Vernon lost his job and Glenda swore they'd just need a little help. I was 26, naive, thinking it was a one-time thing. But it never stopped. They'd call, always with a sob story, and I'd pay, dipping into my savings, skipping vacations, while they never seemed to cut back. This time, though, something felt off. I logged into the bank portal, and there it was. Their account showed a recent $5,000 withdrawal. Not for bills. Not for emergencies. For a Caribbean cruise. My hands shook as I cross-checked their social media. Yep, Glenda's posts gushed about living their best life on a ship, sipping cocktails while I was eating ramen to cover their debt. I sat on my couch, staring at the screen, heart pounding. How could they? I'd been their ATM, thinking they were struggling while they partied. My phone buzzed again, Vernon's voicemail. His voice was cold, accusing. "Darla, we're canceling Christmas. You didn't pay the mortgage, so we're in a bind. Lawyers are involved now, you better fix this." Lawyers? My throat tightened. I replayed it, his words slicing deeper each time. But then something snapped. Not fear. Anger. I wasn't the one who'd lied. I wasn't the one who'd spent thousands while claiming poverty. I gripped my phone, knuckles white, and made a call. Not to Vernon, but to my lawyer, Faye. "Can I get off this mortgage?" I asked, voice steady. She paused, then said, "It's tough, but possible. Let's talk tomorrow." That night, I didn't sleep. I paced, replaying every sacrifice, every late night at work, every skipped coffee date to save cash. Their betrayal burned, but it also woke me up. I wasn't their doormat anymore. By morning, I had a plan. Faye would dig into the legalities and I'd confront them, not with tears, but with facts. I glanced at my phone, 3 more missed calls from Glenda. I didn't call back. For the first time, I felt a flicker of power. They thought they could bully me. They were wrong. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table, coffee gone cold, staring at a photo from 10 years ago. Me, Vernon, Glenda, and Marla at my college graduation. I'm grinning, cap tilted, clutching my marketing degree like it was a ticket to the world. They're smiling too, but looking back, their smiles were thin, like they were humoring me. That day, they didn't toast my summa cum laude or ask about my plans. Instead, Glenda gushed over Marla's new car, a shiny red convertible Vernon bought her for making it through community college. I remember my chest tightening, brushing it off, telling myself it didn't matter. But it did. That photo was a snapshot of the pattern. My wins were invisible while Marla's were gold. Flashed to when I was 24, landing my first big marketing gig. I'd spent months pitching campaigns, pulling all-nighters, and finally snagged a promotion with a fat bonus. I was buzzing, ready to share the news at Sunday dinner. But when I got to their house, Vernon was mid-rant about Marla's brilliant idea to start a dog-walking business. Glenda clapped like it was Nobel-worthy, even though Marla never followed through. I tried to jump in, saying, "Hey, I got promoted." Vernon barely glanced up, muttering, "That's nice, Darla," before asking Marla about her business plan. My face burned. I stabbed at my mashed potatoes, swallowing the hurt. Later, Glenda pulled me aside, not to congratulate me, but to ask for $500 for house repairs. I wrote the check, ignoring the pit in my stomach. Then there was the mortgage, the big one. At 26, I was building my career, saving for a condo when Vernon called, voice shaky. "We're losing the house. Darla, you're our only hope." Glenda sobbed in the background. They said the bank needed a cosigner with good credit, mine. I hesitated, but Vernon pressed. Your family. We'd do it for you. I believed them. I signed, tying myself to their debt, thinking it was temporary. But the calls kept coming, $1,000 here, $2,000 there. Each time I paid, my savings shrinking while Marla posted about her new designer bags. I'd lie awake calculating how much I'd given, how little they'd repaid. Yet I never said no. I was the good daughter, right? The worst was 2 years ago. I just pulled off a major campaign, boosting my company's revenue by 20%. My boss threw a party, called me a rock star. I was on cloud 9, texting Vernon to meet for lunch, hoping to share my high. He agreed, but when I got there, he barely listened, scrolling his phone. Then he slid a bill across the table. $3,000 for back taxes on the house. You're doing well, Darla, help us out. No congrats, no pride. I paid, but my hands shook as I handed over the card. Driving home, tears stung my eyes. Why was I always the one to fix their messes? Now, staring at that graduation photo, I saw it clearly. They'd never valued me, just my wallet. My fingers curled around the frame, tempted to smash it. Instead, I set it down, hard. Faye was meeting me in an hour. This time I wasn't bailing them out, I was breaking free. Faye's office smelled like old books and lemon polish, a stark contrast to the chaos in my head. I sat across from her, gripping my water bottle as she flipped through my mortgage documents. Darla? This is doable, she said, peering over her glasses. But it's a fight. You'll need to prove they misled you. Her words hit like a lifeline. For years I'd been drowning in their demands, but that morning I felt something new. Resolve. I wasn't just reacting anymore, I was building a plan to escape the mortgage and their hold on me. It was my secret weapon, forged in the quiet moments when I refused to break. The aha came a month earlier, after another late-night call from Glenda, begging for $1,500 to avoid foreclosure. I was exhausted, my savings nearly gone, but her voice cracked just right, and I almost caved. Then I checked the bank app, another withdrawal, this time for a new TV. My blood boiled. I didn't send the money. Instead, I started researching. Hours online, digging into cosigner laws, reading forums, calling banks. Most said I was stuck unless the primary borrowers, Vernon and Glenda, refinanced without me. Fat chance. But one obscure article mentioned fraudulent inducement. If I could prove they lied to get me to sign, I might have a shot. I saved every bank statement, every social media post showing their spending. My laptop became a war room, tabs open, notes scrawled. I was obsessed. The struggle was brutal. Nights blurred as I worked my marketing job by day, then pored over legal jargon till 2 a.m. My eyes burned, my coffee intake was criminal. Twice, I nearly quit. Once when Vernon texted, "You're abandoning us." And again when Marla posted a photo of her new watch, captioned, "Blessed." But each time I pictured their cruise, their lies, and kept going. I found a loophole. If I could show financial duress and their misrepresentation, I could petition the lender to release me. I called Faye, a friend's recommendation, and she took my case. "You're not just fighting a contract," she said. "You're fighting for your life." She was right. By the time I sat in her office, I had a dossier, screenshots, receipts, even Vernon's voicemails. Faye nodded, impressed. "This is solid. We'll draft a demand letter to the bank and your parents." My heart raced, not with fear but anticipation. I'd spent years invisible, but this was my moment. I imagined Vernon's face when he realized I wasn't their puppet anymore. Still, doubt crept in. What if the bank refused? What if they sued? I pushed it down, focusing on Faye's pen-scratching notes. She handed me a timeline. Weeks, maybe months. "Stay strong," she said. I nodded, fingers tapping my knee. Leaving her office, I felt taller. My phone buzzed. Marla, asking for a quick $200. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked to my car, the winter air sharp on my face. For the first time, I saw a future where I wasn't tethered to their debt. It wasn't just about the mortgage, it was about reclaiming me. Tomorrow, I'd face them at the pre-Christmas dinner. They thought they had me cornered. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The day before the family's pre-Christmas dinner, I was at my desk trying to focus on a client pitch, when my phone lit up with Vernon's voicemail from the night before. I hadn't listened again since it first gut-punched me, but I hit play, needing to steel myself. His voice crackled through. "Darla, you've left us no choice. Christmas is off. You didn't pay, so we're talking to lawyers. Fix this, or else." The "or else" hung heavy, like a blade over my neck. I set the phone down, hands clammy, staring at the snow falling outside my window. Lawyers? For what? I'd paid their mortgage for years while they blew cash on cruises. My jaw tightened. This wasn't just a threat. It was a declaration of war. I replayed the message, dissecting every word. Vernon's tone wasn't desperate. It was smug, like he thought he'd already won. Glenda's silence in the background felt louder. She was complicit, always playing the victim to his bully. Marla, no doubt, was cheering them on, ready to inherit whatever they squeezed out of me. I opened my laptop, pulling up Faye's latest email. Demand letter drafted. We'll send it to the bank and your parents after the holidays. My finger hovered over the reply button. Part of me wanted to fire it off now, let them choke on their turkey tomorrow. But Faye had warned me, timing mattered. I needed to face them first, see their lies up close. The dinner was at their house, a tradition I'd once loved but now dreaded. I pictured the scene, Glenda fussing over her overcooked ham, Vernon pontificating about family loyalty, Marla scrolling her phone, tossing barbs. They'd expect me to grovel, maybe write a check to save Christmas. My stomach churned. I grabbed a notepad, jotting down what I'd say. No tears, no apologies, just facts. You spent $5,000 on a cruise while I paid your debts. I practiced it, voice low, until it felt like armor. But doubt crept in. What if they twisted it, made me the villain? What if they cried, begged? My pen froze. I'd spent years caving to their guilt trips. I stood, pacing my apartment, the fairy lights I'd strung up mocking the holiday cheer. My phone buzzed. Glenda, texting about the dinner. Bring dessert, Darla, we're counting on you. No mention of the voicemail, no apology. Typical. I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled up their bank records again, the cruise payment glaring back. My resolve hardened. Tomorrow, I'd walk into their house not as their savior, but as their reckoning. I wasn't just protecting my money, I was protecting me. That night, I barely slept. My mind racing through scenarios. Vernon shouting, Glenda sobbing, Marla sneering. But in every version I saw myself standing tall, voice steady, laying out their betrayal. Faye's words echoed, "You're fighting for your life." By dawn I was exhausted but ready. I packed the dessert, store-bought pie not homemade, and checked my phone. 2 more texts from Glenda, 1 from Marla. "Don't mess this up, sis." I smirked. They had no idea what was coming. The dinner wasn't just a meal. It was the eve of their judgment. I pulled into the driveway of Vernon and Glenda's house, the pie box sliding on the passenger seat as I parked. Their place looked festive, twinkling lights, a wreath on the door, but it felt like a stage set for a trap. I grabbed the pie, my breath visible in the cold, and walked up the steps, heart thumping. Inside, the air smelled of ham and cinnamon, but the warmth was a lie. Glenda greeted me with a tight smile, her eyes darting to the pie. "Oh, Darla, store-bought," she said, voice dripping with disappointment. I shrugged, setting it on the counter, already bracing for the onslaught. Vernon was in the living room, nursing a beer, while Marla lounged on the couch, scrolling her phone, her new gold bracelet catching the light. We sat for dinner, the table groaning with food they couldn't afford. Or rather, I'd been paying for. Vernon carved the ham, holding court. "Family's everything," he said, glancing at me. "Some of us get that." I gripped my fork, the jab landing hard. Marla smirked, chiming in. "Yeah, Darla, you've been so busy with your fancy job." Her tone was all sugar, but her eyes were knives. I took a sip of water, steadying myself. I'd planned to wait, but their smugness pushed me. "Speaking of fancy," I said, voice calm, "how was that Caribbean cruise?" The room froze. Glenda's fork clattered. Vernon's face reddened, but he recovered fast. "What are you implying, Darla?" I leaned forward, locking eyes with him. "I saw the bank records. $5,000 for a cruise while I'm covering your mortgage." Marla snorted. "You're spying now?" But Glenda's face paled, her hands twisting her napkin. Vernon slammed his palm on the table. "You don't get to judge us. We needed a break." "A break?" I almost laughed. "A break from what? Lying to me about being broke?" My voice stayed even, but my pulse raced. Glenda jumped in, voice quivering. "Darla, how could you say that? We're struggling." I pulled out my phone, holding up a screenshot of their withdrawal. "This is struggling?" The air crackled. Marla's jaw dropped, her phone forgotten. Vernon's eyes narrowed. "You're out of line," he growled. "We raised you and this is how you repay us?" I didn't flinch. "Repay you? I've paid your debts for years while you partied." Glenda started to cry, but it felt rehearsed, like always. "You're breaking my heart, Darla," she whimpered. "I didn't buy it." "Your heart's fine," I said. "Your bank account's the problem." Marla finally spoke, voice venomous. "You think you're better than us, you'll regret this." I met her stare. "I regret trusting you all." Vernon stood, looming over the table. "You're embarrassing yourself. Apologize, or don't come back." I pushed my chair back, standing too. "I'm not apologizing, and I'm not paying anymore." The words felt like freedom. Glenda gasped, Marla muttered, "Unbelievable," but I was already grabbing my coat. As I reached the door, Vernon shouted, "You're no daughter of mine." I didn't look back. Outside, the cold hit my face, but I felt alive. They thought they'd break me. Instead, they just lost their grip. I was barely home, still buzzing from walking out, when my phone started blowing up. Text from Glenda, then Marla, then Vernon's number flashing for a call. I let it go to voicemail, sinking onto my couch, the adrenaline fading into a heavy ache. The pie fight at dinner had been my stand, but I knew they wouldn't let it go. I hit play on Vernon's message, bracing myself. His voice was low, deliberate, not the yelling I expected. "Darla, you've crossed a line. We're done with you. Don't expect to be part of this family if you keep this up." My chest tightened. Done with me? After years of me carrying them? I replayed it, catching Glenda's muffled sob in the background, then Marla's sharp, "Tell her she's selfish." It wasn't just a threat, it was a formal disownment, their way of twisting the knife. I sat there, phone in my lap, the apartment silent except for the hum of the fridge. Part of me wanted to call back, to scream, "You used me," but I didn't. Instead, I pictured their faces at dinner. Vernon's red-hot glare, Glenda's crocodile tears, Marla's smug pout. They thought this would break me, make me beg to stay in their good graces. My fingers curled into my palms, nails digging in. They were wrong, but the hurt still clawed at me. Family was supposed to be my anchor, not my anchor weight. I'd spent years trying to earn their love, only to see it was never about me, just my money. Then Glenda's text came. "How could you do this to us? We're your family." I stared at it, her words a masterclass in guilt. She'd always known how to play me, tears at the right moment, a hug to seal the deal. Not this time. I typed, "Family doesn't lie about cruises while I pay their bills," but didn't send it. Let them stew. Marla's message followed. "You're a disgrace. Good luck without us." I laughed, bitter. Good luck? I'd been surviving their chaos my whole life. My thumb hovered over Vernon's number, tempted to call, to lay into him about every dollar, every lie, but Faye's voice echoed, "Stay focused, emotions can't win this." I stood, pacing to the window, the city lights blurring through my reflection. Disownment wasn't new, it was their trump card, dangled whenever I questioned them, like when I was 19 and refused to loan Marla $1,000 for a business idea. Vernon had iced me out for weeks, saying, "You don't care about us." I'd apologized then, desperate to belong. Now at 32 I saw it for what it was, control. They didn't want a daughter, they wanted a debtor. My eyes stung, but I blinked hard, refusing tears. I wasn't losing a family, I was losing a lie. By midnight, another voicemail from Glenda, her voice shaky. "Darla, please, let's talk. We can't lose you." Too late. I deleted it, my hands steady. Tomorrow, Faye would finalize the demand letter. They could threaten all they wanted, but I was done playing their game. The dinner had been their stage to shame me. Now it was my turn to rewrite the script. The next morning I sat in Faye's office, the demand letter on her desk, crisp and final. My hands were steady, but my heart raced as she slid it toward me. "This is it, Darla," she said, her voice calm but firm. "It notifies the bank and your parents you're seeking release from the mortgage due to misrepresentation." I scanned the page. Legal terms like fraudulent inducement and financial duress stared back. My years of sacrifice boiled down to ink. Faye leaned forward. "Once this goes out, there's no turning back. You ready?" I nodded, throat tight. "Send it." She smiled, a glint of pride in her eyes, and emailed the letter to the bank in Vernon's address. I exhaled, feeling the weight of 6 years lift, replaced by a spark of power. By noon I was back home trying to focus on work when my phone lit up, Vernon. I let it ring, picturing his face as he read Faye's letter. Another call, then Glenda's number, then Marla's. I ignored them all, but the notifications piled up, texts, voicemails, a frenzy I hadn't expected. I opened one from Glenda. "Darla, what is this? Call us now." Marla's was nastier. "You're screwing us over, stop this." I smirked, but my stomach twisted. They weren't just mad, they were panicking. Faye had warned me, the bank would likely freeze their account pending review, maybe demand immediate repayment without my credit backing them. Good. Let them feel the squeeze. I poured coffee, hands shaking slightly, and checked the voicemails. Vernon's first. Darla, this is nonsense. Lawyers, you're out of your mind. His voice cracked, not with anger, but fear. Glenda's was next, sobbing. How could you do this to your own family? Marla's was a snarl. You're dead to us. I counted 10 messages already, each more desperate. By evening, the tally hit 20, a mix of pleas and threats. Vernon again. Darla, we'll lose the house. Fix this. I didn't reply. For years, I'd jumped at their calls, wired money, saved their skin, now silence was my weapon. I sat on my couch scrolling through their texts, each one a stab at my resolve. Glenda's, "We love you, Darla," felt hollow next to Marla's, "You'll regret this." But I didn't waver. Faye had done her job. My name was off the mortgage, or would be soon, pending the bank's review. The legal weight was shifting, and they knew it. I imagined them at their kitchen table, scrambling, maybe calling their own lawyer, only to realize they couldn't afford one. My lips twitched into a half smile. They'd built this mess, not me. As night fell, another voicemail. Vernon, softer now. Darla, let's talk, we can work this out. Too late. I deleted it, my finger steady. The calls kept coming, but I turned off my ringer, the silence louder than their noise. For the first time, I wasn't their lifeline. I was mine. The letter wasn't just paper, it was my declaration of independence, and they were feeling its burn. By the next afternoon, my phone was a war zone. 68 calls and messages, a relentless barrage from Vernon, Glenda, and Marla. I sat at my kitchen counter, sipping tea, scrolling through the chaos. Vernon's latest voicemail was a growl. Darla, you're ruining us. Call me back. Glenda's texts alternated between sobs, please, we're family, and guilt, you're tearing us apart. Marla's were pure venom, you're a selfish bitch, enjoy being alone. I set the phone down, my hands steady, their desperation washing over me like noise I could finally tune out. The demand letter had hit its mark, and their panic was proof. For years, they'd leaned on me, but now the ground was shifting, and I was the one standing firm. I opened my laptop, checking Faye's update. The bank had acknowledged the letter and frozen Vernon and Glenda's account for review. Without my credit, they'd need to refinance or pay up. Fast. I pictured Vernon pacing their living room, Glenda wringing her hands, Marla sulking. They'd expected me to cave, like always. Instead, I'd exposed their house of cards. I leaned back, a grim satisfaction settling in, but their messages kept coming, each one a jab at my resolve. Glenda's latest, "We'll lose everything, Darla, is that what you want?" I didn't reply, but her words stung. Was I the villain here? No. They'd lied, spent lavishly, used me. This was their reckoning, not mine. Then a new voicemail from Vernon, his voice softer, almost pleading. Darla, we didn't mean for this. Let's fix it together. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Fix it? Like I'd fixed their mortgage for years? I deleted it. Marla's next text popped up. You think you're smart? We'll sue. I rolled my eyes. Sue with what? Their cruise fund? My fingers itched to respond, to lay out every dollar I'd paid, every lie they'd told. But Faye's advice held me back. Let them flail. Silence is stronger. She was right. Each ignored call was a brick in the wall I was building. I stood, stretching, the weight of their frenzy oddly empowering. I walked to my window, the city humming below, and thought of dinner, their smug faces, their demands. They'd thought they could shame me into submission. Now, their 68 messages were proof of their fear, not my failure. I wasn't just walking away, I was forcing them to face the truth. My phone buzzed again, Glenda, begging for a call. I turned it face down, the screen going dark. Let them panic? I'd spent years cleaning their messes, but this time I was done. As evening fell, I lit a candle, its flicker calming my nerves. Another text from Vernon. Darla, please, we're sorry. Sorry? Too little, too late. I didn't need their apologies, I needed freedom. And I was almost there. Faye said the bank's review could take weeks, but every message from them was a sign they knew the end was coming. I wasn't their ATM anymore, I was Darla Wren. And I was rewriting my story, one unanswered call at a time. After days of dodging their calls, I needed air, so I met my friend Tammy at our favorite diner, a greasy spoon with cracked vinyl booths and the best pancakes in town. The place was warm, buzzing with chatter, a world away from the cold silence of my apartment and the storm of my family's messages. Tammy slid into the booth across from me, her curly hair bouncing, and tossed her scarf on the seat. "Okay, Darla, spill. What's with the radio silence? You look like you've been through a war." I managed a half smile, stirring my coffee, the spoon clinking against the mug. She didn't know the full story, only bits about the mortgage and my parents' struggles. But her concern, real and unguarded, cracked something open in me. I told her everything: the cruise, the voicemail, the 68 messages, Faye's letter. My voice stayed low, but my hands gestured wildly, betraying the fire inside. Tammy's eyes widened, her fork frozen mid-bite. "They did what? A cruise? While you paid their bills?" She leaned forward, shaking her head. "Darla, that's not family, that's a scam." Her words hit hard, not because they were new, but because hearing them from her made it real. I nodded, my throat tight. "Yeah, and they disowned me when I called them out." Tammy reached across, squeezing my hand. "Screw them. You've got us." Us was our little crew. Her, Neil, and Patrice, friends I'd met through work and random nights out. They were my chosen family, the ones who showed up without strings. I thought of last summer when Neil threw a barbecue and Patrice spent hours teaching me to grill, laughing when I charred the burgers. No demands, no guilt, just acceptance. Compare that to Vernon's dinner table, where every word was a test, every glance a judgment. Tammy pulled out her phone, texting the group. "We're doing drinks tomorrow, you need this." I started to protest, work, stress, but she cut me off. "Nope, you're coming, we've got you." The waitress dropped our pancakes, steam rising, and Tammy pushed the syrup toward me. "Eat. You're not carrying this alone." I took a bite, the sweetness grounding me. For the first time in days I felt light, like I could breathe. My family's betrayal still stung, but here, with Tammy's no-nonsense warmth, it didn't define me. I thought of Glenda's sobs, Marla's threats, Vernon's pleas. They were noise now, not truth. My truth was this booth, this moment, these people who saw me, not my wallet. As we ate, Tammy ranted about her own family dramas, her cousin's petty feuds, her dad's bad jokes, and I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. My phone stayed in my bag, silent. No buzz from Vernon, no guilt from Glenda. I wasn't their fixer anymore. I was Darla, eating pancakes with a friend who'd fight for me. Leaving the diner, Tammy hugged me tight. "You're stronger than they'll ever know." I hugged back, her words settling deep. My family's toxicity was their burden now. I had allies, and they were worth more than any mortgage. The next evening, I sat at my desk, the glow of my laptop screen casting shadows across the room. Faye had emailed an update, the bank was reviewing my case, and Vernon and Glenda had been notified they'd need to refinance or face foreclosure without my name on the mortgage. My phone, still on silent, had racked up more messages. Vernon's latest was a terse, "We need to talk, Darla, now." I ignored it, my fingers tapping the desk, a rhythm to steady my nerves. Their panic was real, but I was done being their lifeline. Tonight, I wasn't just dodging their calls, I was setting rules they'd never expect. I opened a blank email, addressing it to Vernon, Glenda, and Marla, my heart steady but pounding. It was time to draw the line. I typed slowly, each word deliberate. "I've removed myself from your mortgage. I won't pay your debts anymore. If you want to talk, it's on my terms. No guilt, no threats, no lies." My cursor hovered over the send button. This wasn't just an email, it was a fortress, a boundary I'd never set before. I thought of Tammy's words at the diner. "You've got us." She was right, but this part was mine alone. I hit send, the whoosh of the email echoing in the quiet, my shoulders relaxed, a weight lifting. They could rage, beg, or ghost me, it didn't matter. I'd just reclaimed my power. Minutes later, my phone buzzed. Glenda calling. I let it ring, watching the screen until it stopped. Then a text. "Darla, how could you? We're your family." The same old script. I didn't reply. Marla's message followed. "You're heartless. Good luck living with this." I snorted, setting the phone face down. Heartless? After years of their lies? My eyes drifted to a photo on my desk, me and Tammy at a concert last year, grinning carefree. That was family, not this. I stood, pacing to the kitchen, the memory of their dinner table venom fresh. Vernon's, "You're no daughter of mine," had cut deep, but now it felt hollow. They'd manipulated me for years, banking on my loyalty. No more. I poured a glass of water, the coolness grounding me, and thought of Faye's advice. Boundaries aren't just words, they're actions. I was living that now. If they wanted a relationship, it'd be honest, equal. or not at all. I wasn't afraid of their silence or their threats anymore. By midnight, another voicemail. Vernon, his voice strained. Darla, we got your email. Let's figure this out. Figure it out? No. They'd had years to figure it out while I paid their way. I deleted it, my hand steady. The calls slowed, their frenzy fading into desperation. I sat back, the apartment quiet, my email's words echoing in my mind. I'd set the rules. No more lies, no more guilt. If they pushed back, I'd walk away for good. For the first time, I felt untouchable. Not because I'd won, but because I'd chosen myself. The fortress was built, and I was safe inside. A week later, I stood in front of a small crowd at a local community center, my notes clutched in one hand, a mic in the other. I'd been invited to speak at a financial literacy workshop, a side gig I'd picked up to share my marketing skills with people trying to get their lives on track. But today, my talk wasn't just about budgeting or branding, it was personal. The room was packed with 20-somethings, single parents and retirees, all scribbling notes as I shared my story, carefully edited but raw. I co-signed a loan for family, I said, voice steady, and it nearly ruined me. Don't let loyalty blind you to red flags. Heads nodded, eyes locked on mine. I wasn't just teaching, I was reclaiming my legacy, turning my pain into something bigger. I described the mortgage, the lies, the cruise, keeping names vague but emotions real. My hands gestured, animated, as I recounted the moment I sent Faye's letter. I had to choose myself, I said, pausing as a woman in the front row wiped her eyes. It's not selfish, it's survival. I shared how I'd rebuilt my savings, negotiated with the bank, and set boundaries. The crowd leaned in, some jotting furiously, others whispering to neighbors. One guy raised his hand, voice shaky. How do you say no to family? I took a breath, thinking of Vernon's voicemails, Glenda's tears. You say no with actions, I answered, and you stick to it even when it hurts. After the talk, people crowded around, sharing their own stories. A mom trapped by her brother's debts, a student guilt-tripped into loans. I listened, nodding, offering tips from my own fight. Check bank records, get legal help, prioritize your future. My chest swelled, not with pride, but purpose. For years, I'd been the good daughter, bleeding money to prop up Vernon and Glenda's facade. Now, I was Darla Wren, helping strangers avoid my mistakes, rewriting what my name meant. I thought of Marla's last text, calling me a disgrace. She was wrong. This, helping others, standing tall, was my honor. As I packed up, a young woman, maybe 25, lingered. I co-signed for my dad, she whispered, eyes down. I'm scared to stop. I touched her arm, gentle. You're not alone. Start small. Talk to a lawyer, protect your credit. She nodded, tears brimming, and I handed her Faye's card. Driving home, I felt lighter. My family's shadow still loomed. Faye said the bank's review was ongoing and Vernon had gone quiet, which felt ominous, but it didn't own me. I'd turned their betrayal into a beacon for others, a legacy of resilience, not debt. At home, I checked my phone. No new messages from them. Good. I opened my laptop, drafting a blog post about the workshop, my fingers flying. I wasn't just surviving their mess, I was building something new, something mine. My name wasn't tied to their mortgage anymore, it was tied to stories like that woman's, to hope. I smiled, the quiet of my apartment wrapping around me like a shield. This was my victory, and it was just the start. I sat on my balcony, a mug of tea warming my hands, the early morning city hum soft below. It was a week after the workshop, and the air felt different, crisper, like the world had shifted. My phone was quiet, no new messages from Vernon, Glenda, or Marla. Faye had called yesterday. The bank approved my release from the mortgage and my parents were scrambling to refinance. They hadn't reached out since my email setting boundaries and the silence was loud but not heavy. I sipped my tea, staring at the horizon, and realized something. I didn't need their approval anymore. My worth wasn't tied to their love or their guilt. It was mine, built from years of fighting, choosing myself and helping others do the same. I thought back to the workshop, the woman who'd clutched Faye's card, her eyes full of fear but also hope. That moment stayed with me, a mirror of my own turning point. I'd spent so long chasing my family's validation. Every check I wrote, every call I answered, was me begging to be seen. But their betrayal, that cruise, the 68 messages, had forced me to see myself. I wasn't their ATM or their scapegoat. I was Darla Wren, 32, a marketer, a friend, a voice for people trapped like I'd been. My fingers traced the mug's rim, the warmth grounding me. I'd found peace, not in their apologies, but in knowing I was enough. The balcony door creaked as I leaned back, picturing Vernon's face when he got the bank's letter, Glenda's tears, Marla's sneer. They might never change, might always paint me as the villain. That was okay. I didn't need their story to end with a hug or a redemption arc. I had Tammy's laugh, Neil's bad barbecue, Patrice's hugs. I had the workshop crowd, their notes, their questions. I had Faye's steady voice, my own steady hands. My legacy wasn't their house or their lies, it was the strength I'd carved out, the people I'd lifted up. I stood, stretching, the city waking up below. My laptop sat inside, open to the blog post I'd written, already getting comments from readers sharing their stories. I'd keep writing, speaking, helping. Not for fame, but because it mattered. My family's shadow was gone, not because they'd changed, but because I'd stepped into the light. I smiled, the kind that starts in your chest and spreads slow. This was peace, self-validation, hard-won and mine forever. Have you ever had to break free from someone who took you for granted? I'm Darla, and sharing this story, my fight to escape my family's financial grip, has shown me how many of us carry these burdens. In the comments, tell me, what's your story? Who or what did you have to let go to find your peace? Your words might help someone else take that first step. If my journey resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to choose themselves. We're stronger than the guilt, the lies, or the fear. You don't need anyone's permission to be whole, just your own. Keep fighting, keep shining. You've got this.